Bienvenue au podcast en deux choses de métal, le podcast animé par moi-même Marco et l'encyclopédie de la lutte au Québec, TJ Holiday. TJ, un autre bel invité aujourd'hui. On va carrer ça.
Right down the middle, compte de 3.
Ouais, avec un fellow Canadien, Jimmy Korderas, qui est avec nous autres au podcast, l'ancien arbitre de la WWF/WWE. Donc, chic type, très hâte de faire cette entrevue-là. Puis je pense qu'on va avoir des belles histoires. Écoute, quand tu fais 20 ans que la WWF, c'est sûr que tu as des choses à dire. Puis ça va être vraiment le fun.
Son parcours intéressant aussi, là, il va nous expliquer dans l'entrevue là, ses premières années là-bas, là, comment il a eu son big break, comme qu'ils disent. Là, puis c'est vraiment, vraiment cool comme histoire, là, surtout avec un certain géant.
Exact. Fait que, sans plus tarder, voici l'entrevue.
Attends.
Qu'est-ce que
tu vas trop vite, là.
Je t'ai excité, moi j'ai hâte que.
Oui, je comprends. Je comprends, oui. Mais en fait, le podcast, semaine passée, il faut en parler, là.
Ouais, ben on est dans la grosse saison, le Road to WrestleMania. On était dans la grosse saison. Ouais, c'est ça. On était dans la grosse saison. Fait que c'est WrestleMania X8, évidemment, à Toronto. Fait que ça tombe bien qu'on reçoive un Canadien qui vient de là-bas. Fait que WrestleMania X8 à Toronto, Hogan Rock. Fait que gros WrestleMania review cette année, évidemment.
Ouais, exactement.
Et à travers la table, ça va être mardi 20h30 en direct sur YouTube, Twitch et Facebook. Manquez pas nos entrevues avec les artisans québécois et aussi la lutte moderne et tout ce que des jeux, des quiz en deux collections. On s'amuse le mardi soir.
Exactement. Fait que là, sans plus tarder, là, on est prêt. Là, tu peux le mettre.
On peut y aller, là?
Ouais, go. Hello, Jimmy. How's it going?
Good, guys. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Really good.
Thanks for accepting the invite for the podcast. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. So before we start with the questions, well, how are you up to these days? How do you keep busy right now?
Oh, well, obviously I keep busy with my wife, who's a Québécois, actually.
Really?
She's from northern Quebec, Noranda. I want to pronounce it correctly. I don't know.
Noranda.
Yeah, she's originally from there, and now we live here in Toronto. Still Canada, so it's still good.
Yeah, it still counts.
I stay busy with basically still watching wrestling, paying attention to the product. I do a podcast with some fellow referees or former referees, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who's the head official at TNA, is also part of the podcast. We call it Reffing It Up, and we do it once a week. Also on TSN Radio on 690 there in Montreal, Donnie DeSilva and I have a show called Huge Pop Radio, and that airs on Wednesday nights from 11 p.m. till midnight. And I have a lot of fun doing that, just talking wrestling and interviewing people, having some great guests, and still connected to the product. You know what I mean? Because once it enters your blood, it never leaves.
The love is still there after all these years.
True.
yeah, it's still there. It's still there. The passion is still there too.
I heard you a couple of times and Busted Open too.
Yeah.
Go to Busted Open. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times. I'm friends with David LaGreca and of course Mark Henry and Tommy Dreamer and Bully, or I call him Bubba still. You know, we've worked together for so many years, and Nick Nemeth too. So it's good connecting with those guys. It really is a lot of fun, and they're what they're doing is fantastic.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
How do you fall in love with the wrestling business?
For me, it was easy. I mean, here in Toronto, and I'm sure where you guys are in Montreal, when I was a kid, and that was a long time ago, we used to get so much wrestling on television on the weekends, on Saturdays. We got, at the time, it was Maple Leaf Wrestling here, the Tunnies. We had Mid-Atlantic Wrestling from one of the Buffalo stations. We used to get it up here. We used to get international wrestling from Montreal on City TV here locally. We had one of the Barrie stations had Stampede Wrestling. We had AWA Wrestling. There was so much wrestling on television. So my Saturdays were all tied up with all day watching wrestling and then Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night, you know. I fell in love with it right away.
Those were the best days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And how do you get to the business, to the wrestling business?
Well, they used to run Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto every 3 weeks. And eventually WWE took over the office. But what I used to do as a fan, I would go to every show every 3 weeks. So I went to the office and asked them if I can get like seasons tickets, but I wanted as close to to the ring as possible. So they got me ringside tickets, like seasons tickets.
Yeah.
Second row, right beside Maple Leaf Gardens used to have that ramp that used to go from the locker room to the ring. I was seated, the 2 seats right beside that ramp, second row ringside. So what I would do is I would take pictures of the boys when they would, because it was such a great spot, coming out of the ring. And they used to have a place called Direct Film back in the days when you have to get your film developed, take it in, and they would double your prints for $1. So I would get 2 sets of prints. I would keep one for myself, and I would go back the next show and sell them.
Oh,
yeah, for $2 a picture, and I would pay for my ticket. I would pay for my, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, okay, I'm watching wrestling for free and that sort of stuff. So then the guy that worked for Jack Tunney, who took the pictures for the program and stuff, I didn't know who he was. He came up to me, he says, "Hey, can I see your pictures?" I said, "Sure." So I showed him my pictures. He says, "Oh, you take pretty good pictures." I said, "Thanks." He goes, "Are you selling them?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "How much?" I said, $2 a picture. He says, "You can't do that." And I said, "Why? Who are you?" He says, "Well, I work for Jack Tunney," and he tells me about copyrights and all this stuff. And I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I'm going to lose my season tickets. And he goes, "You don't look like a bad guy. Just go, don't stand right outside the building. Go down the street a little bit where they can't see you." And I said, "Okay, thank you very much." And we became friends. And he said, "I'll introduce you to Jack because maybe he can hire you on as my assistant photographer. And that way you'd be right at ringside taking pictures, but you can't sell them." I said, "Well, that's okay."
Yeah.
So he introduced me to Jack, and Jack said, "Well, we don't need another photographer right now, so we'll find something for the kid to do." So I was doing the odd jobs here and there, just give me the keys to his car and send me to the airport to pick up Andre the Giant. And I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm going to go pick up Andre the Giant." I mean, but I'm trying not to show them how I'm ready to lose it. You know what I mean? So it was all that sort of stuff, at the beginning anyways. Yeah.
Do you remember the first wrestler you pick up at the airport?
Ooh, I think it was weird because I think the first wrestler I picked up at the airport, I can't remember if he was the first one, but one of the first ones was Andre the Giant.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And that's what really surprised me, because I'd only been like working for Jack a couple of months and doing, the odd jobs around the arenas and stuff. And then when he said he had this big blue Cadillac, and, he hands me the keys to the car and says, "Go to the airport Marriott and pick up Andre the Giant." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. Whatever you need, sir." And he was one of the first, believe it or not, right away. And Roddy Piper was another one of the first, and Hulk Hogan, believe it or not, and Macho Man and Liz, and I was like, oh my goodness. It was incredible. It was incredible.
And did you not at that time you wanted to be a referee as well, or you just wanted to do this for your life, just pick up wrestlers and that's it?
I didn't know what I wanted. I really didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted to be a part of the business in some way. And then I got to know Pat Patterson very well.
Yeah,
really good guy. He was very nice. And then after, I don't know, it was a little over a year or so, I was working for Jack. He says, "Well, Jack, we got the kid here. He sits around. He's waiting for us to give him something to do." Says, why don't we use him? Why don't we make him a referee?" And Jack says, "Well, do we want to smarten the kid up?" And Pat says, "Jack, he's in the locker room with the boys. He's hanging around. I think he knows what's going on. Let's use him. Let's put him to work." Yeah. So Pat came to me. He says, "Get black sneakers, black pants, a blue shirt, and a black bow tie. Carry it with you all the time, because we're gonna make you a referee." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Thank you." So I went out and got all that. But dumb me, stupid me, I didn't know enough to go, okay, let me ask questions. What am I supposed to do as a referee? How do I do this? So we had a house show here in Newmarket, Ontario, and Chief Jay Strongbow was the lead agent for that show. And he says to me, he goes, "Hey, Jimmy Jam." He says, "You got your ref stuff with you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Chief, I do." He says, "Well, put it on your reffing tonight." And I went, okay. I didn't want to say anything. He says, "You're reffing the match with SD Jones and the Red Demon, who was Jose Luis Rivera when he wore the mask." I said, "Good." He says, "Get with them. They'll let you know." I said, "Okay." So I was good friends with SD at the time. I said, "SD, I got some good news and some bad news." He says, "Well, what's the good news?" I said, "I'm reffing your match tonight." He says, "Awesome." He said, "What's the bad news?" said, I'm reffing your match tonight. I've never done this before. I don't know, what am I doing here? So he just said to me, you know, stay close to me and I'll talk you through it. So he talked me through the match and I was like a robot in there. You know what I mean? It's my first time. I'm so nervous. And then after the match, he says, okay, now you know, you got a taste of it. Start asking questions, go to the veteran referees, ask them to watch your matches, you know, and talk to the boys when you're in the ring. Before you get to the ring, ask them what they want you to do and all this. He says, but you got to keep asking questions and keep learning. He says, you're never going to learn it all. You know, there's always something to learn, but, you know, always be a sponge. He said, be a sponge to absorb everything.
Mm-hmm.
Since you know Pat Patterson, did you come to Montreal territory sometimes for a wrestling show?
Yeah, because after a while, because I was part of the ring, they gave me the assignment of taking the ring around where I would drive it to Montreal from here, from Toronto. They had it stored here, and I'd put it in a rental truck. And then before they bought a cube van, because at that time that ring was so the pieces were so compact that you could fit them in a cube van, the entire ring, believe it or not, in a 16-foot, because the longest pieces were 8 feet at that time. Now they've had 20-foot planks on the ring, but at that time, the longest pieces were 8 foot, so you can get a whole ring in there. So I used to drive it into Montreal. I've driven it to New Brunswick. I've driven it to Nova Scotia. They had me drive it out to Manitoba before. So I put some miles on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were learning on the job for being a referee. Do you remember your first ref bump?
Yes, believe it or not, I remember the first one on TV. Okay, I'm trying to date these properly, but the first time I got to work TV was it was Glens Falls, New York. So I did Glens Falls, New York for Superstars, and then it was what I want to say Albany, New York.
It's possible.
Probably for Challenge, but anyways, it was Glens Falls, New York, and they used to do 3 weeks of TV tapings in one night back then. And I was reffing a match with the One Man Gang and Dusty Wolf. So I wasn't supposed to do that match originally, and Pat says to me, "Okay, we changed it up a little bit. You're going to do that match. Get with Gang, and he'll tell you what he needs you to do." And I said, "Okay, no worries." So I got with him. He says, "Okay, Pat told me to get with you. I'm reffing your match." And I says, "Yeah, okay. I'm gonna." He had his finish was a 747, which was like the front face suplex kind of thing. He says, "I'm going to hit him with that. You count 1, 2, 3. You go to raise my hand. I'll go push you away. I'll pick him up and give it to him again." He says, "You get in my face. You really get in my face, and then I'll hook you and I'll give it to you. Are you okay with that?" I said, "Yeah, whatever you need. What do you need me to do?" He says, "No, just land as flat as you can." Okay.
Wow.
You know, so that was, what am I supposed to say? No.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big bump for a referee at the time, no?
Yeah. And then, so he, I end up taking the bump, and it's so weird. I had to calm myself down because, your juices are flowing, your adrenaline's flowing. I'm trying to say, okay, stay down, don't move, stay down, because this is his finishing move. And it's a guy who's 400 pounds giving you this. So wait till they come and get you, and help you. I'm trying to think this while it's going on, but at the same time, I'm going, man, this is cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I think I saw that match like a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
What is a typical day for a referee in WWF taping back in your days?
Back in because I did double duty, I was on the ring crew as well. So we would arrive pretty much before everybody else. We were there, depending on where it was, either 10 a.m., 11 a.m. They would unload the ring from the big trucks, because TV has the big trucks. And we also had a lot of help, which was good. We always had the stagehands that would help us set it up and stuff like that. So that was really helpful. So we'd set up the ring. We'd make sure everything was, where it needs to be. And then we'd find out after their production meeting, the ref assignments for the day. And then we'd seek out whoever's match we had, and we'd talk to them. And again, just sit there and listen to them go over the match and try to process everything. And then also ask them questions. What do they need me to do? Is there anything they need? that sort of thing. And then once the show starts, you're pretty much on call the entire time, because you never know, something, God forbid, something bad happens. So you're on the call and just making sure everything's all right. You stay close to guerrilla position in case they need you. And then we got the IFBs eventually, where they, boom, they could talk to us wherever they need us. We can be anywhere in the building, and they said, okay,
Do you remember the year you have the here?
I want to say it was like mid-90s.
Okay. Yeah.
Mid-90s.
Makes sense.
I'm dumb because I never wrote down dates. Like everybody now has one of these.
Yeah.
So, you can keep track of every show you worked, where you worked, whose match you worked, and stuff like that. Some guys wrote that down. They kept a journal.
Yep.
I never kept a journal like a dummy. I should have kept all that, because people will come to me and say, "Oh, remember this match you did?" And I go, "No, I don't. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And did you leave late after the show sometimes, or was it pretty early? Or
No, we would be the guys who tear down the ring afterwards and get it back in the truck. And the early days when the ring had its own separate truck, depending on who it was, usually sometimes Tony Chimmel would drive the ring truck. And then once they got the actual transport truck for the entire ring and all the accessories that go around it, we didn't drive the transport trucks because they had truck drivers doing that. We had to drive rental cars. So we'd be close. We wouldn't be the last guys to leave, because the rigging guys who did all the lights and the sound and all that stuff, they'd be the last ones to leave, but we'd be close.
Okay.
Close to the last ones.
Okay. And when you get hired by WWF at the time, it was because of Pat Patterson, or you have another meeting or whatever?
Well, technically, when I got hired to work for Jack Tunney, his office was the Canadian office for WWF at the time.
Okay.
So I was technically working for WWF through the Toronto office.
Okay.
And then, once I started refereeing, then it was kind of like, okay, now you're an independent contractor for WWF.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you remember your first meeting with Vince McMahon?
No, I don't.
No?
Oh, okay.
No, it was one of those things. It was kind of like in passing, probably, where it was just, because he's a big dude, and especially for someone who just started, it's kind of intimidating, because he always walked around all kind of
like this.
he had that puffed out chest and stuff,
Of course.
Yeah.
And throughout your career as a referee, do you have any special moments or matches that you refereed that you enjoy the most?
Oh my goodness, I had a ton of them. Obviously, the one that comes to mind, WrestleMania 24. It was the main event with Edge and Undertaker, which is, like a dream come true for any. If you're in the business and you get to referee a main event at WrestleMania, it's great.
And they asked for you, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I didn't know it was about a week or two before Edge sees me in the locker room, and he just says, "Hey, Jimmy, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" He says, "I was talking to Taker. We want you to referee our match at WrestleMania." I said, "That's cool, but I'm scheduled to do something else." He goes, "Nah, don't worry about it. I think he can get that changed." I go, "Oh, okay. What do you guys want?"
Yeah.
So see, that's a huge honor. And I ran into Taker later on, and he says, "Did Edge talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you cool with that?" And I was like, "Wait a minute. The dead man's asking me if I'm cool about that?" Yeah, darn right I'm cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What wrestler is the easiest to work with and the most intimidating?
Oh, intimidating?
Yeah.
I don't know who I'd consider intimidating. Almost, sometimes let me go easy first, because that was an easier question. Because there were guys that were so smooth. I don't want to say it was like a night off, but it was like you're on the same wavelength as these guys. Eddie Guerrero was one. Eddie was just a dream to work with. Him, I'm going to say Owen Hart, who was fantastic. Other guys were easy. You know who's easy to work with, believe it or not, is Randy Orton.
Really?
He's just so smooth. It's incredible. Guys who were a little bit intimidating, I would say someone like Brock was a little bit intimidating at times because when he gets in beast mode,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, do I need to be cautious around him or what? Or is he working me? What the hell's going on? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
which he was, but you never know.
True.
Yeah.
And of course, you talked a bit about Owen just a few seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, unfortunately, you were there at the night that he passed away. You were
Mhm.
actually going to be the referee for his match.
Mhm.
Can you take us a little bit through that night?
Yeah, it was again tragic night, very
Mhm.
tragic. Again, I was scheduled to referee his match, and before his match, there was a hardcore match that happened, and there was debris in the ring and that sort of stuff. So I went out early, and the crew came out to start sweeping the ring and cleaning stuff out, and I was helping them clean some stuff out.
Mhm.
And I had my left hand on the top rope, and I was just kicking stuff out of the ring and walking towards the corner. And I was watching out of the corner of my eye, I was watching the big screen, the Jumbotron, where they had the pre-taped interview of the Blue Blazer with
Mhm.
Kevin Kelly. And as I was thinking, I heard somebody scream, but I thought it's a building with 16,000 people, so I didn't think anything. And then at the same time, as I felt something brush by me, the top rope got pulled out of my hand and came back and hit it came out and slammed my fingers.
Mhm.
And I didn't know, like, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the top rope broke. What happened? And I looked around, but the rope was still there. And I'm going, I didn't,
Didn't
process
it.
anything.
Yeah.
And I looked, and there was Owen. He was lying down. He was face up. And again, I didn't put two and two together. I was like, what is going on here? And then I called out a couple of times. There was no response. So I kind of started screaming for help and stuff like that. And that's when everybody started coming into the ring. And yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
And how was it backstage? I guess the same thing, pretty rough too after the fact.
I don't know what was going on backstage because I walked out when they took him to the ambulance, and I was sitting outside, and then they made me go get checked out as well because, I guess they figured I was having an anxiety attack or something.
Mhm.
So they took me to get checked out, and I don't know what was going on. I didn't know that the show had continued or anything like that. And I still, to this day, don't remember going from Kansas City to St. Louis for the Raw the next night. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Understandable. Yeah.
Do you think the show they should stop the show at this time? Do you now it was 20 plus years
Yeah.
ago? Do you think they should stop the show?
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think so. I really do. I saw the documentary with Vince McMahon, and I heard what he said about if it was him, he'd want the show to continue. That's fine. If he wants to say that, that's up to him. But I don't think it should have continued. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah. But of course, without talking about Owen Hart in that light, of course he was one of the best ribbers ever in the industry. Everybody has an Owen Hart story. Can you tell us one?
Yeah. That's the thing about Owen Hart. He was a great ribber, but his were never harmful.
Mm-hmm.
His were always playful. They were so they made you laugh. And it was almost like a badge of honor. When you got ribbed by Owen, it was like, okay, he got me. I got ribbed by Owen. And me, just a couple of times, it was very simple things, very like in the middle of a match, somehow he would be able to untie my sneakers. I don't know how he did it, but they would get in a hold like on the ground, or he'd grab somebody in a hold on a rear chin lock or something, and I'd go down and he'd go, "Hey Jimmy, check your shoes. Your shoelaces are untied." And I'd go, "What? No, there's no way they came undone because I made sure they were tied tight, And he'd be laughing and stuff like that. And I remember one night we were at the hotel after a show, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and the phone rings in my room, and it's a guy says, "Hi, Mr. Korderas." I said, "Yes." So this is the front desk calling. He gave me some name. I don't even know. He goes, "This is the front desk calling. We have a problem with your credit card. You have to come down and straighten this out." I said, "Oh my God." I said, "It's late. Can't we do this in the morning?" He says, No. This has to be done right now. We have to take care of this." And I'm like, "Okay." So, I put on a pair of sweats and go downstairs, and I go to the front desk. There's some guy at the front desk. I said, "Hi, somebody called me about my credit card." He says, "Oh, what room are you in?" And I tell him my room. He goes, No problem here." I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Somebody just called me and said, no, we didn't call you. Nobody from the front desk called you." And just as I was about to turn around and walk away, here come like 3 more guys coming off the elevator. and they're coming to the front desk, and they're doing the same thing. "Hey, who calling?" I'm like, "Okay,
Oh, no way.
he got everybody."
That's amazing.
I love the stories. Wow.
You have any other ones about anybody else but Owen? Like something funny that happened to anybody else?
Oh my goodness, he gets Vince. He got
Yeah.
do you remember years ago Henry Godwin had a hog pen match against Triple H?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what happened was they were setting up the hog pen and all this stuff during the day, and the truck showed up that delivered the pigs, the hogs, and he just happened to be out near the loading area, and the guy got out of the truck and he said, "Hey, excuse me, I've got the pigs here. Does anybody know where they're supposed to go, where I'm supposed to offload them?" Owen goes, "Yeah, follow me." So he grabs all these pigs, he takes them down, he takes them puts them all in Vince's office. They're at the production meeting right now, so they don't know, So they come out of the production meeting, and Vince walks into his office. He's like not even in there for 3 seconds. He opens the door, he comes running out, he's screaming, "Owen!" He knew who it was right away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, yeah. But he was laughing too, so.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's hard to stay mad at Owen Hart for sure.
No.
Yeah.
No, see, that's the beauty. He was the guy who made everybody happy, made everybody laugh. It was amazing.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed his time in the business. I think for the wrestling, but for the people around it.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, he's one of the rare human beings where you can't say anything negative about. Zero negative about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a storyline that always pops up when I think about you. Is about in 1999 there was like a strike for referees, and you were the only one who actually did this job and was a referee. And then you got attacked by like 6-7 of them and got saved by Stone Cold. Can you talk about this little storyline a bit?
Yeah, well, that happened by accident actually, because I was getting married and I'd gone to JR and I said, "JR, I'm getting married on September 5th. Is it okay if I take like 2 weeks out? Because it's hard to take some time off."
Mm-hmm.
But JR was always great. So, "Wow, what do you need? 2 weeks?" He goes, "Are you sure that's enough, kid?" I said, "Yeah, 2 weeks is good. I just need a little time for the honeymoon." He says, "Okay, no worries." So he gave me the 2 weeks off. And while I was gone on honeymoon, I wasn't watching any wrestling because I want to stay married. So I'm not going to watch wrestling on the honeymoon. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that they started this angle where the referees went on strike because they were claiming that the talent was abusing them. And until they got better working conditions, they were going to stay on strike and all this. So I come back and they're filling me in on this. And they're going, "This is what's going on." I said, "Really? Oh, okay." So, I walk into the locker room and Hunter happened to be there. Okay. He says, "Hey, Corduroy." He used to call me Corduroy. That was his nickname. "Corduroy, welcome back. How was the honeymoon?" I said, "It was great." He says, "Well, how does it feel to be out of a job now?" Ha, 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 ha. And I went, "Hunter, I can't afford to go on strike. I just got married." And he started laughing. He went, "Ha. Oh, wait a minute. Come with me." I went, "What?" So he took me and he takes me to JR. And he goes, "JR," he goes, "Korderas has a great idea." And I go, "I do? What?" So they came up with the idea that I would be the only regular referee to break the picket line. And then to solve the problem, to bring all the other referees back, they did the thing at the pay-per-view where right in the middle of that 6-pack challenge match, they all dragged me out and they started beating the heck out of me. And by the way, somebody needed to teach Kyoto how to do working kicks because I think my kidneys still hurt from back then. But got saved by Stone Cold. And then the next day they solved the strike issues and everything was somewhat back to normal.
That's a fun storyline though, for honestly.
Yeah. But it's amazing how it just happened You know what I mean? Just an offhanded comment. I meant it as like a stupid dad joke.
Mhm.
And he
Yeah.
like, you know, and it's sometimes it sparks something, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You are released by the WWE back in the time. I think you got a health problem and you got released after. Is that right? Yeah. Is that
No,
right? No?
there was a little problem in 2006, but in 2009, just before I got released, my father got sick. He got
Mhm.
Okay.
got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer.
Yeah.
You know, so I requested some time off because my mom was by herself, so I went home to help out, and I was home for like 2 months, and then I got a call from the office, and they said, "Is there any time frame when you think you're going to be coming back?" I said, "I really don't know because things are not looking good, and I need to be home right now."
Family first, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said, "Okay, well, keep us in the loop." And you know, another couple of weeks went by, and they called me back and they said, "Well, look, we're doing, yeah, you know, the release. They're, you know,
Budget cuts.
budget cuts. There's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. They're doing the
Yeah.
budget cuts. What we're going to do with you," he says, "we'll put you on hiatus for 90 days, and we'll pay you for the 90 days. And after the 90 days, if you're, you know, you're ready to come back, give us a call and let us know." I said, "All right." He said, "Because the door is always open." I said, "Thank you very much, but I'll let you know." The 90 days went by, but the day after I had that telephone conversation with the office, my father passed.
Oh, okay.
And you know that I hate to say it, that light bulb went off. That switch went off, and I said, "You know what? I can't." I don't mean it to sound bad, but I'm glad I was here. And you know, my mom didn't have to go through this alone. I know I have my brother and my sister, but they, you know, they had their families. They lived farther away. They lived out in Napanee at the time, you know. So, you know, and then I sat back and I thought about, you know, let me just think about it. And then I thought, you know what? I gave up so much time with my family, and they gave up so much time with me to allow me to go and live my dream. You know what? I was cool with it. I said, you know what? The time is right. I mean, it was over 20 years, almost 25 years. So I said, you know, how many people can say that?
Yeah.
You know, so I was,
Sure, yeah.
so it was time. I was ready to give back to the family now because they gave to me to allow me to do what I did.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a better story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better. And do you feel is an unfinished business? No, you're okay with all the 20 plus year, and you're good with that now.
To be honest with you, I'm okay with it. But if you never
They
know,
called.
you never say never in wrestling. You know how
Oh
it
yeah.
is.
Okay.
If the right opportunity came up, if they said, "Hey, do you feel like one more?" Or for the, hey, you never know. Well, I'll be honest with you. Like I got friends who run shows. Like there's a buddy of mine in Kingston that runs Chinlock Wrestling, so I'm doing an appearance for him on May 10th, I believe it is. I better check that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what my next question. I think Maple Leaf Wrestling, right?
No. Maple Leaf Wrestling
Okay.
is running the same night.
Okay.
Which, yeah, it is May 10th because I'll be in Kingston because I talked to him, my buddy Jan Murphy, who's doing Chinlock Wrestling. I talked to him, and he asked me. It's their 10th anniversary show. He said, "Would you come out do a signing?" Tommy Dreamer's going to be there. The Godfather, Moose from TNA.
Yeah.
A bunch of guys. PCO was supposed to be there, but now what happened was Maple Leaf Pro is running the 10th at the old Maple Leaf Gardens, which is now the Mattamy Center. But and Scott Demore reached out and said, you know, would you mind coming down as an honored guest for us? And I said, that means a lot, Scott, because Scott and I are friends. But unfortunately, I gave my word. I'm a commitment elsewhere, so I can't do it. You know, but I really appreciate it. He says, "Well, you know, the door's always open here. Anytime you want to come by, you buzz me." And I said, I appreciate it. So, that you never know. Like I said, yeah. And also in June 14th, I'll be in Gatineau.
And we will be there too because we are the two commentary for the show.
Yeah.
Oh,
We do
really?
commentary for the show.
Yeah. So we'll see each other that day.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
really
looking
cool,
forward
yeah.
to that. I'm really looking forward to that because of all the names that are there. I'm looking at the list of guys. I'm going, and I'm saying to myself, this is cool because look at the names here. And I'm looking at everyone. I'm going, I worked with every one of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, am I old?
Maybe you'll see
Oh my
One Man
God.
Gang again. Maybe
Oh,
Oh.
maybe not. No,
he's gonna give you the suplex again.
no.
No way.
I don't mind seeing him again, but no 747.
Yeah.
If they ask for a referee's match, do you?
Like I said, if
You're
the
cool with that?
circumstances are right, you never know.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
never know.
Good to know.
I would love to call that.
Yeah,
Oh my
sure.
goodness! And who knows? You might have to drag me away from the karaoke thing, but
True, yeah. Trivia at
Yeah,
the same time. He's gonna be trivia, he's gonna be karaoke, so
Yeah.
we're good. Before we leave with the interview, you wrote a book a couple of years ago, and you said that you didn't keep up with any of your things, that you didn't write anything down. How did you do the book then?
Yeah, it was a lot of trying to get the memory banks going,
Yeah.
and talking to a lot of people and people reminding me of stuff. And back then, I remembered more than I forgot. Now it's the other way around. I've forgotten more than I remember. So, as time goes by. But I didn't even think about it. But my wife says, you know what? Why don't you write a book on this stuff? And I said, yeah, cool idea. But who's going to want to read a book about the referee? You know what I mean? And she goes, I'm sure a lot of people would.
You'd
So
be
I started
surprised.
writing. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it took a little while. Started writing. I'm very bad at typing, but trying to put it on the computer. And so it took a little while, got it done. And another good friend of mine, Greg Oliver, who over at Slime Wrestling, had him take a look at it and he was like, just went over things and he said, you talked about this. Why don't you, a little more detail? Why don't you talk about this? And he knew a little bit of my story and says, why don't you talk about this and these sort of things? So he helped me out with the book. And then I submitted to the publisher, and we needed somebody to write the foreword for it. And since Edge asked me to ref his match at WrestleMania, I asked him if he would write the foreword to my book, and he did. So that's one of the coolest things ever. See, he's Adam Copeland. He's Cope now, but for me, he'll always be Edge, the Edgester.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you were lucky back in your time. There's lots of Canadians working in WWF as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was a Canadian office. So there was somebody there that could send tapes, because, and say, hey, you guys take a look at these guys. Because when we saw guys like Edge and Christian and Test and other guys that didn't get, who was it? Val.
Lance Storm.
Lance Storm, guys like that, because Lance was fortunate where he was in ROH. So he had a little bit of a spotlight on him with ROH. So he was probably on their radar, but with a little push, they said, bring him in.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Bobby Roode, another Canadian. Lots of, those are the days. Trish. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Canadians, of course, from out west, from out in Quebec. That's how you pronounce it. It's not Quebec.
No,
Quebec.
It's Quebec.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay. I want to pronounce it correctly. That's all, because I'm heading there, so I better say it. Or the wife is going to have a little talking to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And before you leave, I want your take on the big Cena turn, Elimination Chamber. What do you think about this Cena turn finally?
To me, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, I wanted Cena to turn heel 10, 20 years, 15 years, whatever it was. He should have turned back then. No. You know what? In hindsight, now it's easy to look back and say, it wouldn't have worked the same way back then as it worked today. The way they not only planned it out and the way they executed it, everything from the way they executed it and the way they shot it, so cinematic on television, getting all the expressions, because people forget that, your face is where you make your money. That's what you sell with your face. I mean, like, obviously you sell with your body as well, taking whatever moves, but your face is, again, where you sell the most, where people get invested in you. And it was funny because I was sitting watching I was there at the, I still call it Sky Dome. It'll always be Sky Dome for me.
That's good.
But I was sitting with Donnie De Silva, who I do the radio show with, and before the match started, he says, "Who you got winning this thing?" And I go, "You know what? I got a feeling it might be Punk." And I laid out this whole fantasy booking in my head.
Yeah, for sure.
Laid out this whole scenario with him and Paul Heyman and all this and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me, he says, "Oh, I really like that. I hope they do that." And then after they did the whole Cena turn, he looked at me, he says, "Your idea was great, but I'm glad they didn't do it." That was fantastic.
Wow, what a comment.
Yeah.
And do you think Toronto can have another WrestleMania?
I don't see why not. The only thing that might hold them back is the exchange rate, because you know it is a little much, because I remember back when the guys used to work in Canada, they were never very happy because when they worked in Canada, they got paid in Canadian.
Okay.
Like, let's say, for example, I'm just saying, let's say it was $1,000, they got $1,000 Canadian. Whereas in the States, so they would take it home and they get popped for the exchange rate. And the funny thing, there was always the joke about the blue check, because the checks that were issued in Canadian funds from the Canadian office were blue. They had the blue WWE logos, WWF logos on them, and the ones in the States were gold colored. So they used to not be happy about the blue checks and used to get talked about a lot, not in a good way.
No.
Maybe I would sit quiet, because I'm like, okay, I'm Canadian. It doesn't matter.
I'm used to it for sure.
No, see, it was better for me because I got paid when I was in the States. I got paid American.
Yeah.
So when I came home, you know, I was like, so I'd be in the corner. You know.
Where can we follow you on the social media?
Oh, let's see, on Twitter, if you can put up with my dad jokes and my ref and rants, you can find me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Jimmy Korderas, on Instagram at real Jimmy Korderas. Also, I have a Facebook page, and I've also got an email address if anybody wants to book me for an appearance or a signing or anything like that. Book Jimmy Korderas at yahoo.ca. Oh, I better check that out.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I think it's .com. I got it here. So
I hope you do.
Yeah, I don't want to give out some false info right off the gate here. So
yeah, it's hotmail.com, not Yahoo, I think.
No, that's my
personal one.
Yeah, but it's book Jimmy Korderas at yahoo.com.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. We'll put it in the comments anyways if anybody wants to do it.
Perfect.
So thank you very much for the interview, Mr. Korderas. Thank you for being on our podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Perfect.
And then we're going to see it in Gatineau.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye. Et voilà, mesdames, messieurs, une belle entrevue avec Jimmy Korderas, l'arbitre professionnel.
Yes. Chic tip.
Ouais, pour vrai, vraiment le fun à parler. Puis c'est le fun en plus parce qu'on y a parlé, puis on va le voir à Gatineau le 14. Fait qu'on va voir. Il a déjà parlé avant, fait que ça va être plus facile de le voir. Puis avec ça. Puis il l'a dit après l'entrevue, là, on vous le verra pas, mais son épouse va être là, puis elle vient de Noël-Oranda, fait qu'on va pas nous parler en français à nous autres.
Ouais, exact. Fait qu'on a bien hâte de le rencontrer en vrai. C'est toujours le fun de faire des podcasts. On a fait un avec Raymond qu'on va rencontrer au WrestleCon, Jimmy Korderas. Fait que toujours le fun de catch-up avec du monde de la business puis des légendes comme ça. Fait que bien content. Puis j'espère que vous avez aimé l'entrevue. On vous a donné quand même 2 grosses entrevues dans les dernières semaines. Puis on sait jamais qu'est-ce qui peut popper au podcast. On sait jamais. Même nous autres, des fois, on ne sait pas. Fait que...
des fois, on est surpris nous autres même qu'on peut avoir. Fait que...
Ouais, fait que merci d'avoir écouté, puis écoutez-les si vous l'écoutez en rediffusion.
Puis suivez ses podcasts aussi à Jimmy, là. C'est mon podcast avec Reffing Rant puis tout ça, puis allez voir aussi sur ses réseaux sociaux. Puis j'espère que vous avez apprécié pour vrai, puis nous autres, on a bien du fun à le faire, comme que Marco a dit, c'est un chic type, puis à espérer que les prochains invités soient aussi le fun que lui. Fait que voilà.
Yes! Fait que...
On n'a pas terminé, il faut dire qu'est-ce qui se passe. Ben non, le mois commence là, avec cette entrevue-là. On commence en force. On va aussi finir ça en force avec ces prochains podcasts-là.
Prochain podcast, c'est aujourd'hui dans l'histoire WCW Monday Night Raw, le dernier Night Raw à battre Raw dans les ratings, donc le 26 octobre 1998. Donc ça va être intéressant de voir c'était quoi le dernier show avant que Raw et la WWF reprennent le contrôle pour de bon. Fait qu'il va y avoir ça. Et Il va y avoir aussi le In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemy, un rétro review avec, si vous regardez sur YouTube, Shawn Michaels et Diesel. Il va y avoir aussi Razor Ramon, Vader et plusieurs autres combats. Donc, c'est toujours le fun, les In Your House. Là. Oui, des fois, on en pogne un petit peu des moins bons, genre Fully Loaded. Là, mais pour le reste, en général...
aussi.
Bon, Cody Hell était meilleur à regarder que Fully Loaded. Moi, j'ai plus apprécié. Le point 5.
Je pense pas que j'ai apprécié. Je pense que j'ai apprécié plus Fully Loaded.
Toi, de toute façon, t'es tellement difficile. Que...
Ouais, moi, c'est moi qui décide entre les deux, oui, il me semble. Ouais. Puis évidemment, tous les mois du podcast ont une biographie et ça sera pas différent pour le mois de mai.
Mois de mai, la biographie de Jacques, le serpent Robert, Jake the Snake Roberts. Donc, ça va être hyper intéressant.
Oui.
Ça, c'est... En tout cas, c'est un gars que j'aimerais voir au EllisCon. À l'heure qu'on enregistre ça, ça n'a pas été annoncé, mais s'il y avait un gars à aller chercher pour ce EllisCon-là qui nous reste, ça serait lui. Je pense que ça serait vraiment intéressant d'avoir Jake Roberts. Puis,
en effet.
Il y a beaucoup de choses à dire, autant personnelles que professionnelles dans son histoire. C'est très riche.
Il y en a vu du monde. Il y en a vu des histoires, ce gars-là. On va en parler bientôt au podcast. Et aussi, n'oubliez pas le mardi soir.
Sur la table, 20h30, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, les entrevues québécoises, les shows québécois, la lutte moderne, entre deux collections, des quiz, des jeux, des invités surprises. Fait que c'est là que ça se passe le mardi soir, live.
Exactement. Manquez pas ça sur Twitch, Facebook et YouTube. Fait que, c'est ça qui met la fin au podcast. As-tu une demande spéciale pour une tonne après l'audio? C'est ton choix. Il n'y a pas grand tonne pour lui. Fait que c'est ton choix.
Moi, je mettrais une toune de Mitsu. Viens-tu de Rouen-Noranda, Mitsu, non?
Ben là, je parlais plus d'une toune de lutte, là.
Ah, ok. Ouais. La toune d'André le Géant. Y avait-tu une toune, André?
Non, pas vraiment.
Bon, ben.
Honky Tonk Man?
Ouais, ou ben. Je sais pas. Choisis. Je te laisse choisir.
Parfait. On va faire ça. Fait que, en audio, checkez ça. Il va y avoir une nouvelle toune qui va jouer après. Bref, merci Marco.
Merci TJ.
Merci Jimmy, même si c'est pas là pour nous répondre. Merci beaucoup. Fait que manquez pas les prochains podcasts. Ce mois-ci, il y en a beaucoup de bons qui s'en viennent. Mais surtout, n'oubliez pas, très important. Arriba!